Peekaboo, guess who? It's me again. Hopefully I'm not driving you crazy with emails to your inbox every single week. Now, what are we going to talk about this week? What I thought I'd do is I'd recap on your site establishment. Now, we covered this off in the workshop, so this week's video is going to be a refresher just to keep this at the top of your mind. Now, when you're going in and professionally establishing your site, regardless of whether it's a cosmetic or a structural renovation, you need to set your site up properly. So, I do this for all of my sites. As I said, I do it for even the most basic cosmetic renovation, because at the end of the day, by setting up your site properly, you're just taking all the precautions to avoid somebody from having an accident on site. You're also taking precautions to keep people out of your site. So I'm going to show you the key things that I do as part of my site establishment. Now, the very first thing that you do is you disconnect your services. You need to disconnect the plumbing lines, you need to disconnect the electricity lines, and you also need to disconnect the gas lines. So for the electrical lines, it's hiring a licensed electrician, and also for the plumbing and gas lines, it's a licensed plumber / gas fitter, okay? So that's first thing. They will come in, they will disconnect, and they'll basically terminate it at the mains so that your property doesn't have any electricity or gas or water running through the property. This is particularly important in the demolition, the strip out stage, because you don't want to be putting a sledgehammer through the wall and ripping a wire and getting electrocuted, okay? So always be safe, have safe sites so that nobody dies, all right? First things first. Okay, second thing that I do, in terms of setting up my site establishment, obviously temporary fencing. Now this can be hired from companies like Temporary Fence Hire, who you have the national trade discount with. All you need to do here in terms of working out how many meters you need, what you typically do is you measure the front of the property, how many lineal meters it is at the front, and also how many lineal meters down the side, on the left side, and how many lineal meters down the right side. So on this particular site, I've got 45 lineal meters across the whole site. I rang the fence supplier and said I need 45 lineal meters of temporary fencing, okay? So that's that. Pretty easy to do. Now, when it comes to temporary fencing, you can also get shade cloth as well. On my big structural renovations, what I tend to do is put 100% block out shade cloth. What it means is that nobody can actually see on the side, okay? So the temporary fence company tends to apply it from here right down to there, and it's 100% block out and nobody can see into your site, because let's face it, you're going to be taking deliveries of pavers and tiles and all sorts of things, and sometimes expensive things on your site, and you just want to make it hard for thieves to be able to see what's on site. Now, on a quick cosmetic renovation like this, where I'm on site doing the whole project in 2 weeks, you don't really need temporary fence. So there's a time and place for the shade cloth. Always need temporary fencing. All right, site safety signage. Another crucial element of your site establishment is your site safety signage. That's almost like a tongue twister. So I'll just go through. Now, most of these signs, you can buy ready-made signs from organisations like Housing Industry Association and also the Master Builders Association. So this is one of my favourite signs. You'll find that there's individual signs that you can buy, which I have here on the site. But why I particularly like this one's from the Master Builders Association, is that it has this contact panel at the bottom. It basically says who is the builder. The builder is myself, builder / project manager. It also has, if you have a principal certifier, who's the certifier, what is his or her contact phone number. So this is a particularly great sign, because if anything happens on your site while you're not on the site, i.e. in the middle of the night, burglars trying to break in and steal stuff, your neighbours can actually just come across the road and actually get your mobile phone number off it and call you when they need to. If there's an explosion in the middle of the night, they have a relevant contact number to phone you. So this is a particularly great site. Okay, this is a very common site. All visitors must report to site office. This sign is really designed to keep people out of your site, because remember, as soon as they step onto your site, you're liable. So I always place this sort of site right at the entry of the property, so it's very clear that people aren't to walk into my property. What you really want to aim for is that if somebody does come on your site, you really want to aim for them to be standing right here at the entry gates doing this. Hello, hello, is anybody there? That's what you want to aim for them to be doing, okay? You just don't want them walking willy-nilly on your property and through the property that you're renovating. So that's a particularly good sign. Now have a look at this sign. This is a relatively new sign. In fact, the Housing Industry Association have just recently produced this sign. This is called the Site Induction and Safety Rule sign. It's a great sign, but in all reality, I don't think anybody ever reads it. Now this sign's about $100. If you are a member of Housing Industry Association or Master Builders Association, you will get a discount, otherwise you pay retail price. The beauty with all of these signs is that you only have to buy them once. Okay, you buy them once, you make that one-off investment, and all you do is you move these signs from site to site to site, okay? All of these signs here that I'm showing you today cost me about $300 to $500 for all of them, so not a significant expense. This one just goes through all the contact phone numbers, the work cover phone number, and basically all the safety procedures if there is an emergency on site. So that's quite a good one. Okay, this sign over here, this is another one. This is a very common site that you'll see literally across a lot of residential and commercial sites. You know, construction site, keep out, all visitors must report to the site supervisor. Foot protection, saying that steel cap safety boots must be worn, and also eye and ear protection as well. So that's a very common sign that you see all over the place. All right, there's another sign over here. Now this is probably one that most of you would probably not even think to do. This one here is called the emergency assembly point. Now as part of your site induction, which will be a separate video again, you need to designate an area on the property where if, for example, there's an explosion or there's an accident on site, an evacuation point where all the tradies are to go to. Pretty much what's happening on construction sites these days is that what they're trying to do is they're trying to make construction sites very similar to a corporate workplace. You all know that you have fire drills in a corporate office. They're trying to do the same thing. So all this sign is really pointing out is that if there is an accident, all the tradies are basically to form in this spot right here. Now what I tend to do is I tend to position this sign right at the corner of the property so that I can account for everybody. This sign, you can buy it from Officeworks. In fact, some of these signs now you can buy from Officeworks. This was about $10 to $15, so not expensive. Now I just want to give you a little tip in terms of actually having these signs stuck on your fence. I always cable tie them, so all you do is you just go to Bunnings, you buy a pack of cable ties, you tie it through, and they're held very securely in place, okay? And these are very hard to get off for people to steal, so they've got to literally cut them with a pair of scissors to get them off. Whereas I'll just show you something. See, some of these signs, when I was doing when temporary fence hire came out, they actually stuck some of these signs on for me. And see how they've used this little clip system? This not only does it actually ruin your signs, but they actually come off. In fact, I just want to show you something. This has been stuck on with a little clamp, and see how it's actually cupping here? See how it's starting to bend and warp? If you use cable ties, that doesn't happen. So just a little tip there for you. All right, let's talk about so that's your site safety signage. All right, now when it comes to your temporary fence, part of your site establishment is that you must go and buy a 1 meter length of chain and a padlock, because you have to padlock your site. You have to make it secure when you leave the site at the end of the day. So a lot of people don't even really know how to properly put their padlock and chain. I mean, it's very simple things, not common sense, but a lot of common sense isn't common sense these days. So a lot of people tend to do this sort of thing. So I'm going to show you how I padlock my site. So a lot of people tend to do this sort of thing, where they've done that and they padlock it. Very easy to do, but the problem is that people can get there. Somebody skinny like me can actually get through that, okay? So make it hard for thieves to get on your site. What I tend to do with my renovation sites, I even tend to loop my chain around a couple of times at different points. So I'll actually put it through a separate piece of steel mesh. You pull it tight, so here they have to cut the chain in 2 places, not one. And I pull it very, very tight. So I do that, and I work out what the closest link I can get it through, like that, and then like that, okay? Can you see how that doesn't move? So it's just some common sense stuff there. All right, here's another sign. Now, part of your site establishment is making sure you establish your first aid kit. You have to have a designated first aid station somewhere in your site, regardless of whether it's a cosmetic or a structural reno. So this is first aid sign, again, bought from Officeworks for about $10 to $15. You can see that my first aid kit is directly below it. So as part of my site induction, I let my tradies know that if they cut themselves, they're injured, this is where the first aid station is. Okay, witch's hat. The reality is on your renovation sites, you're going to be taking delivery of timber, tiles, pavers, sand, soil, all sorts of things. So sometimes you'll have big trucks pull up on the street and they obstruct some of the street. So what you need to do is, what I tend to do is have about 6 to 10 witch's hat on site, and then as soon as the trucks pull up, my labourers or I will be straight out in the street. They go around the truck to alert motorists on the road that there could be an obstruction at that point in time. So if there was an accident, say for example, if a car ran into the back of a truck truck and you didn't have witches' hats around the truck alerting motorists, you could potentially have a legal case on your hands. So just be safe, be sensible project managers, so you're eliminating any risk to you whatsoever. Now, I tend to keep those witches' hats right close to the entry points of the fencing. All right, okay, now lollipop sticks. The reality is that you're going to be getting deliveries on site, as I've just said, and you need a lollipop stick. Now, believe it or not, you do actually need a ticket, a license to operate a lollipop stick. However, I don't have a license for my lollipop sticks. I know it sounds crazy, but for me, at the end of the day, I just want to be I want safe sites, and I take every precaution possible to minimize accidents. So I bought my lollipop sticks on the internet. So if you Google traffic control lollipop sticks, you'll get these sorts of things. Otherwise, if you just put lollipop sticks in, you'll get it like grape, banana, strawberry, all sorts of things, all right? So they cost me about $120 each. And what I basically do is either my laborers or myself will basically run out in the street and basically stop the motorists from driving, even in quiet residential streets, so that they're safe, all right? So I keep 2 on site. Obviously, you need 1 for either direction. If you only have 1, it's going to be very hard because you want to stop the motorists on both sides. One's staying slow, one's staying slow. So you need 2 on site. At the same time, I always make sure that have safety vests located right close to the lollipop sticks. So if my labourers are going to run out on site, or even myself as a project manager, they're right by the fence. We just quickly duck these on. Away you go with a lollipop stick and you've solved the problem, okay? So just be prepared like that. So just make sure those safety vests are located. Normally just stick them through the temporary fence as you're seeing them right now. All right, what else can I show you? Part of your site establishment is the portaloo, all right? Yes, I may be Australia's renovation queen, but this is definitely one throne I don't want to be on, all right? The reality is portaloos stink, even your chemical flush. So you need to have a portaloo on site. That's the reality. If you don't have a portaloo on site, regardless of whether you're doing a cosmetic or a structural, what happens is tradies will actually go off site to go on the toilet. Now you've got to remember, tradies do a lot of physical work, therefore they're constantly sculling lots of water throughout the day, constantly going to the toilet. Every time a tradie leaves your site, it is lost productivity. So make sure you hire these things, have all the basic things that you need to make sure work continues all the time during the course of the day. All right, one of the other couple of things I just want to show you is the electricity box. So as I mentioned earlier, you have to disconnect the electricity in the main. So quite often what will happen is your electrician will come through and they'll terminate the electricity so that you've only got power from the board. So they'll come through here. Now you can see here where the electrician has come through and he's tagged, he's put his mobile phone numbers and saying don't use those lines there. So that's what you need to do from a perspective from disconnecting the mains. Just part of your other site establishment, probably the last thing that I want to show you is just obviously your own personal organisation on site. So what I do on my sites, I set up my own project management desk and I also set up my staff amenities. So you can see here, now this is nothing flash, it is a construction site. So I've just bought these trestle tables from Bunnings, they're about $50 each. I just move them from site to site so that I can do my work here. You can see I've got my project management case, I've got my laptop computer, my site diary, just the basic things that I need to keep work progressing throughout the day. You can also see behind me, this is pretty much my staff amenities area. So I've got just a basic trestle table. I always provide fresh drinking water, so I just buy these bottles of drums of water, they're not very expensive, so that my tradies have got fresh water during the day. And you can just see I've just got these cheap plastic cheap plastic chairs that you buy from Bunnings and those sorts of places, so that my staff, basically, or my trade team, sit down and eat their meals together. That's a great way to build morale on site. All right, so that's pretty much the key things that I do to professionally establish my site. I hope this was a good little video for you in terms of refreshing your knowledge from the workshop. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to ask. Until next week, guys, take care, keep smiling, see you then.